haven't done too much research on the matter, but I reckon there aren't too many car lovers who dislike James Bond. I mean, he always gets the bad guys. He's got some cool gadgets like a laser watch and exploding chewing gum, and some great cars. In fact, he even had a car once that made itself invisible. Now, if that last item particularly appeals to you, the good news is you don't have to become a death-defying secret agent. You don't need British intelligence or Q division. If you want an invisible car, you just need to get yourself one of those, the VW Touran. Because, let's be honest, when was the last time you noticed a Touran? Have you ever pointed one out or slowed down in a parking lot as you passed one? Does the news that there's a new one excite you even a little bit? No. This is one of those cars that goes about unnoticed, and as a result, people who drive them are also unnoticed. If you want to be invisible, this is a good car in which to not be seen. Be that as it may, this is the new Touran, and we have the top-of-the-range 1.4 TSI. Being a new generation Volkswagen, it has version 2 of the company's family look, with a squared-off front end and a rear that's done away with the round taillight elements in favor of the more Audi-like blocks and lines. To say it's an improvement over the old version is an understatement, if you like the VW look. I do, but I'm getting very bored with the trend amongst manufacturers to give all their cars the same look. Yes, I understand why they do it, but the fact is it's getting to the point where you can't tell models apart. Every time I see a new 5 Series BMW, I think it's a 3 Series, then realize it's a bit too big and think it's a 7. And it's the same with this car. Front on, at first glance, it could be a Golf or a Polo or even a Caravelle. A very undistinguishing thing for an undistinguished car. My own personal take on generic design aside, the Touran benefits from generous amounts of glass, which may provide a bigger target for birds, but it also improves the sense of space on the inside. It manages a sort of stylish, functional look. It may not get any more looks than the previous generation, but it's not unattractive. Also updated are the engines. The range now includes the 1.4-litre 4-cylinder TSI with a very healthy 103 kilowatts and 220 newton meters, thanks to some help from a turbo and a compressor. Now, you might have read the rumor on the RPM TV website about Volkswagen discontinuing this engine because it's just too expensive to produce and maintain. All I can say is I hope it remains a rumor, because this is a great little engine. Besides its low CO2 and decent fuel consumption, it has an impressive sub-10 second 0 to 100 time. But what makes the TSI a good engine is not so much its shove off the line, but the fact that it has a very linear quality to it. There's always enough power when you need it. And it's also easy. I mean, it doesn't like it when you floor the accelerator, but keep things calm and you're rewarded with nice, smooth power. The Touran is a lot less like driving a van, and a lot more like driving a car. Yes, all the van-type qualities are reserved for that other VW MPV, the Caddy. So if you're wondering which is best for the everyday, it's worth paying the premium for the Touran. It does a very good job of balancing an ease of use with practicality, and if you really want, you can even equip it with a third row of seats. VW are very keen to point out that those extra seats are comfortable for adults on long journeys, and while I have my doubts about that, the rest of the ride setup is spot on. Again, those car-like qualities come through really strongly. You've got a nice solid 6-speed shift action, and the suspension, although it's a bit on the hard side, keeps things nice and easy. The only concern really is with the steering, and given this car will spend a lot of its time in parking lots and other high traffic areas, I would have thought that Volkswagen would give it a little bit more assistance. But the Touran plays the MPV role really well. Our test car doesn't have that third row of seats I mentioned earlier, and you don't even have to have the second row of seats. They are completely removable. With the seats in place, comfort levels are decent, and you even get the option of Napa leather inserts. That generic theme found with the styling continues on the inside, and if you've seen any new Volkswagen recently, you'll know exactly what goes on in here. The build quality and the materials are all top-notch, even though they are a bit dull with their black and grey finishes. But the best thing is reserved for the driver. These sport seats are fantastic. Before the Touran arrived at RPM HQ, its reputation for blandness preceded it, and it became an arm wrestle as to who was going to review it. I drew what I thought was the short straw, but after a week or so with it, I've grown to really like this car. I've filled it with mountain bikes, I've filled it with people, I've driven it in the city and on the open road, and I've enjoyed every single kilometer. It has this magical ability to convince you that, while there's a lot of load space behind you, what's under you is as good to drive as any hatchback. But all that goodness comes at a price. The Touran is not cheap. This 1.4 TSI is beaten in the price stakes by the likes of the Mazda 5 and the Citroen C3 Picasso and the Toyota Verso. In fact, for the 300,000 Rand you pay for this car, you could buy yourself a Mercedes-Benz A-Class or 2 Nissan Lavinas. So it is expensive, but you get what you pay for, and it is very, very good. Don't be fooled by the 1.4-litre engine. It's a high-tech force-inducted unit producing good power. It provides the Touran with decent responses and delivers frugal fuel consumption. The result is a vehicle that feels more hatchback than compact MPV. The steering feels too heavy at times though, and we'd love to see VW add more flair to its interior styling.